Okay, hello, welcome back. This time I'm commentating over 24 Mists. There you can see the overall from the previous dungeon where, like I said, did the most damage to Shades. Anyway, so this is a super common way that most people play Mists because pulling the first two packs together is really dangerous in hierarchies. This is the first pack especially, leaps everywhere, does just ridiculous amounts of damage, so most people opt to skip them, and it helps get your Lust on cooldown a bit faster as well. And they just do this. You just pull all of these things onto the Lieutenant, and boom. On a fort week, you might Lust this. It's not a fort week, and so we definitely want Lust from the boss, so you can see we're saving it. And luckily we have a Windwalker monk, so yeah, just this thing's ending quickly. I've learned my lesson from getting hit by Spitefuls a lot in the last video, so I'm avoiding them better now. As I said in the last video, I'll say it again, always take Necrotic on Tyrannical weeks. The only time it's really worth it to take some of the options is, one of them is Mist. If you're doing like a high fortified and you have either one or a couple of people commit to doing plumes, can make large pulls at the very end of the dungeon far easier. But aside from that, you just take Necrotic. Double Champion's Brand's not really worth it. It can be when you're running Freeze and Rain if you're going to do large AoE, but it's generally not really worth the single target loss. So, yeah. If you're doing anything above like a 21, I would just recommend always taking a Necrotic Wound with that one and always taking Champion's Brand with the second one, especially if you're not near the crit cap. Sorry, soft cap, because it's still good in AoE. So. I always try and convince whatever groups I'm doing with to pull these bow breakers after the lieutenant instead of pulling, the other lieutenant that's in Ingra's room, just because it's an easier way for you to reset your icy veins than if you had to use on single target. And I'll talk about my Ingra rotation for a second. So, as you just saw, I just popped icy veins and frozen orb. On generally any key, you can pop one frozen orb and icy veins. On a key lower than like a 22, I'd say you have to save your rune of power because you're not going to get your icy veins back. And on this 24 tyrannical, I can use two frozen orbs and get them both back, and get my icy veins back, so I full sent rune as well. And you should always make sure to be kicking on Ingra. That thing will literally one-shot people, so yeah. And we have a shaman, so that's really nice. You can see I have my icy veins back. The tree still has 33% HP. Partially because these guys aren't, the best single target damage. And they're holding their cooldowns after all. See, I barely lived one of the spear bolts coming out to hit me, so. My pot wasn't up from the start of the dungeon, which was pretty bad. Yeah. I probably should have. I don't know. I'm not sure if I should have recast the rune or not, but yeah. Anyway, during the burn, I mean. You can see we did a decent amount of damage. To be honest, I don't remember if we 2 or 3 phased him. 3 phasing this boss is completely fine on a high tyrannical, because it's honestly quite difficult to 2 phase him. So. And I get my savings back here. I believe I'm just gonna pop it because, yep, I want it back as soon as possible for the next part, the maze, because we will be pulling the 2 people on top of the incinerator. And that is also a great place to reset Icy Veins. So I want to make sure to have a cast there. So here you can see what I was talking about. I'm holding both Rune and Frozen Orb because the tree's about to phase. To be honest, I wasn't expecting all the blue stuff to disappear. Did not know that happened. So yeah, I cancel my Blizzard, which would have been a little bit extra damage. I didn't shatter there because I don't have Ice Veins up, so I didn't have enough haste before it ended. You know, now I'm saying that, I just realized that DBM has fixed their timers so that the phase is correct on it. Makes sense. So now, you can see I just did 2, on Frostbolt into Flurries, and that's because, okay, that one, I don't know why I did that one. This is just padding, I believe. That's why I did the double, make them phase faster, but yeah. Sure, hopefully. Yep, look at that. That was nice. Yeah, so Embrace Darkness just went out. We definitely need to push him here because it just takes a large amount of AoE on everyone. Very hard to heal through. And he's now dead, and the rest of the key is going to be easy because it's a miss. And we end up pulling Oros, I believe, so the last boss wasn't too crazy. So this is what I was talking about earlier. We pulled the double on top of the incinerator. This is crazy good for my Icy Veins. I was just a millisecond late there on my Frostbolt, so I had to recast another one to use my Flurry. Should have cast Blizzard a little bit earlier, but Splay Ice honestly is quite hard to manage all the things, all the priorities, especially when you cast mirrors like I did there, because I don't even think I really used one of them. Yeah, I'm still not casting Blizzard, but that's because I want to make sure that I'm not wasting any Fingers of Frost procs, because that's going to be more damage, and Frozen Orb cooldown doesn't really matter, especially on Spiteful. When you can just, Blizzard the dead ones. I wasn't sure about my decision of Raging Battle Axe or Champion's Brand. Yeah, I went Champion's Brand just because I wanted to do big AoE damage. So these things are getting deleted right now. Look at that. Absolutely disgusting. So I decided to shoot my Frozen Orb again here. You probably shouldn't. This was literally just because I could pad on Spitefuls and I wanted to reduce my Icy Veins cooldown. But as you can see, I still got 30 seconds left on it, so not great. I'm also over here because I don't have any Shimmer charges, which is also, not great. So I can't shatter or anything. Now move in to shatter. if I need to. The tank starts kiting, so I use Cone of Cold. The reason that he's kiting here isn't because of necrotic, it's actually because if you have sufficient distance between you and the shades, you can just walk through the door. If you're not the one that's in combat with them, because they aren't targeting you. So casting Frostbolt here, and that's a mistake. You should be Arcane Explosion. As a filler between your fingers of frost, I mean. This is another great example. Oh, okay, well, definitely should use. Actually, that Frozen Orb is probably fine. But yeah, this is just another example of a dungeon that's great to have the interrupt conduit in, because you can just solo the Shaper interrupts. You might be able to without the interrupt conduit, but you definitely can with it. So you see me looking over to the left, that's because you can actually pull another one of these frogs, but the tank didn't want to do that, so we did not. It's a fair decision. They obviously jump around a lot, so it's quite hard to cleave with them. So the second one would have taken a bit to kill. But any range person can do it. If you just walk up to the wall on your left, you'll be able to see their nameplate. You click it and you just hit them with a range ability. Again, I mean, you can see that it's going to take a second for my Frozen Orb to go off cooldown. Bit unfortunate. At this point, I'd realized maybe I should start using Arcane Explosion a bit more, so I am. I clipped 2 Fingers of Frost here, but it's alright. Mist, especially on a fortified week, is a very good Night Fae dungeon, especially because Venthyr really offers you almost no damage where it matters on the first boss, which is the most difficult thing in here. So that said, I could see people playing more Kyrian or Necrolord, especially if they wanted that first boss damage, but that's unlikely to happen. They just bring another class that fulfills the single target niche better than Frost does, like a Venthyr Boomy, and then just spec their Frost to be their Night Fae or to be their AoE, which would likely still be Night Fae. Definitely shouldn't shatter your combos during Frozen Orb. I mainly did it because I had a lot of haste and I was already casting Frostbolt as a filler, so. But as you can see, I don't know, it's making me do a lot of damage. So that's dead. You want to keep Blizzard up if the boss and this thing are stacked. Additionally, this is one of the best times in the fight to first an orb because you get your double procs, right? So your orb is going to hit both the clone and the Mistcaller, which means it has 2 chances really to crit, which is good for your Icy Veins cooldown reduction. You shouldn't hold it for that though, just if it comes up, you should send it. You can, of course, also polymorph that Vulpine. Luckily, our healer is kind enough to handle those, so we can just do big damage. Some unfortunate clipping issues with that ability right there. Makes it quite hard to see. It's kind of surprising because this ground is barely elevated over the lower ground, but oh well, you know, they're just a small indie company. Unfortunate to shot off an unpowered Ice Lance, but that's alright. And just shot off another one. Damn. Feels bad. So at this point, I already know, because I've been talking to her tank, that we're going to do the triple pack with, the 3 mob pack with Oros. So I'm definitely going to want Icy Veins for that one. You'll notice the Casimir's Torment on the boss here, even though it'll do no damage. It will definitely last 18 seconds, which is what I want, because I want all 3 uses out of it. So, yeah. You can see I waved my mouse around. That's because I was like, this is really bad of me to be doing, which was casting Frostbolt when I had so many things to fill with. So, yeah. If you ever notice me waving my mouse frantically around, that's what that means. It means I fucked up. And I noticed. I had to show that man he's not the only one with the Void Talon, you know. I believe someone else in the group also has it. They're riding it in one of our earlier keys as well. So figured I'd join the squad. Now this is great. I blocked that off because I just don't want to have to deal with any damage thing. I just want to pump. This is a situation where Icy Flows is better than Shimmer. Really, Shimmer hasn't provided me much value this dungeon, but that's alright. I just like it for the safety, because it provides you an oh shit button. I mean, you already have one, but Iceblock's not on GCD, and Shimmer is not. As I said before in my last video, if you're going to alter this guy's cold thing, then you should notice how much tick it does, how much HP each tick does to you, so that you know when you should alter back, because you don't want to just randomly die from 20% HP because you weren't expecting it to do how much damage it did to you. So you can guess, or you can alter back early at like 30% HP. either one works. And you should definitely take the interrupt power if you end up killing Oros in Miss, just because there's so many things to interrupt, and the last boss has a lot of interrupts that also contribute massively to your damage. So I obviously misplayed a bit there, right? I stopped casting my Blizzard, I should have just Shimmered. So, yeah. They asked for someone to go CC one of the Reavers, specifically the one front, because if you CC that one, then they'll stop. So I went and did that. I will probably re-Icy Veins here in a second. Yep, there you go. It's Spiteful, so I know I'm definitely going to be able to get back. Otherwise, I probably would not have cast it again, because it's unlikely I would have gotten it back. Fortunately, my chain reaction stacks fell off, but that's alright. I really should get a timer for ACC I have out somewhere on my screen so I don't have to turn back to the target. That'd be useful. You kind of already have it in PP because you use like Gladius, you know, so it's less important there. Now I'm going back to re-CC the Pat, and then we should be good to continue on to the boss, really. I believe we're going to do, yeah, we're going to do the trash after the boss room. Wait, the trash from the other side of the boss room before we do the boss. Yeah, it was unfortunately a pretty late reaction block, so I guess I should mention, obviously there won't be really any videos coming out for like a week and a half, mainly because this is not a good push week for Mythic Plus, so I probably just won't be doing any. I might make a raid video or some other guide video. I'm definitely going to do a video as we get closer to 9.1.5 talking about where you should play each spec, right? But it can't be a waste to do that video now, so we'll just wait. And by where, I mean like what dungeons would you play Fire versus Frost, potentially Arcane, where you wouldn't raid if you were progressing, stuff like that. Obviously, if you're the most comfortable with Frost, it's probably the best in every situation. It has very little downfalls. Well, I mean, I guess its major downfall is that it doesn't really do that much damage compared to other specs. Apparently, if you jump here, you can get the wasps. And I mean, like, just jumping aggroes them, which I did not know until this key. I mean, I didn't aggro any, but they said don't jump, and I'm like, what? I'm not on the edge of a building. I guess that was kind of a bad joke. My apologies. Suicide baiting's kind of a thing after all. I decided to waste my Fingers of Frost proc there so I could enter with my Brain Freeze. Otherwise it would be a pretty bad to cast Mirrors of Torment during Rune. So as you can see, I had a pretty good flow going from the start of my Spains through this Rune, right? At this point, I was kind of asking for them to hold kicks for me. Not hold kicks for me, I mean, they didn't really do it, but I was able to kick there, which gave me, you know, some good extra damage during the end of my Frozen Orb. And here, out of range. If you don't know, the green stuff moves faster the farther you move away from it. So if you want it to barely move at all, when it spawns on you, just barely move every time. Don't blink away or anything. It obviously gets much more difficult later on, so you kind of have to end up blinking away. So, yeah. Overall, I mean, this wasn't even too bad of a key, right? We're about to time this with like 2.5 minutes left to the max, 1 death. You know, pretty good. Definitely doable on 25. I think at 26 is probably out of reach with this comp. So, yeah. The first boss really just needs more damage, I imagine. That's the main thing. If you're wondering, the DH is playing the burn. I guess most of you probably don't multi-class or anything, but anyway, the DH is playing the Burning Wounds legendary. I've seen a lot of people have, you know, pretty decent success with the Night Fae one, but I think it has a lot less single target damage. So, be interesting to see if he runs that on Fortified Weeks or anything. Because I've seen, yeah, look at that. Like, that thing came out in a hexagon, like. Very hard to dodge. Fortunately, I didn't have a Shimmer up, so I think they're going to slowly walk out of my range. Yep. And we end up not having 2.5 minutes left. We end up having, I guess it looks like about 1:20. Okay, exactly 1:30. So, yeah, 25 would be tight. And I got socketed wrist. That's pretty awesome. Alright, well, thanks for watching. And if you like this, you can check out one of my other videos, which probably will not have me commentating like this and will instead just have normal team comms. But yeah, have a good rest of your day.